And without further ado, let's get started. It's 8:30, and we'll have more people joining us. But in the meantime, thank you all for attending. My name is Gregg Towsley. I'm with the Grow Plumbing, and today we are discussing Google Local Services ads. Before we begin, a couple housekeeping items. One, please use the chat box. You can actually interject by raising your hand in the GoToMeeting or speaking out. And I want this to be an interactive session, so I'm open to answer any questions as they come in. There's no need to take notes. The slides and the video will be provided to everyone afterwards, and then obviously I'm available to answer any questions. So let's get into it. I'm super excited about this topic, Google Local Services ads, and it's really a game-changing program from Google. So here's today's agenda. We are going to cover the topics here on the left. Please type in any messages in the chat box and we'll be happy to answer those. I have a couple colleagues that are monitoring those, so they'll be able to stop me anywhere along the way. If you can't hear me or if anything breaks up, just let me know. This is a really interactive session, so please do ask questions. I know this program very, very well. I have 3 clients that we've onboarded onto Google Local Services ads. I have multiple visits to Google headquarters up in Mountain View, to meetings with the Google Local Services ads team. So we'll get into a little bit on that. Our clients are seeing pretty amazing results, and that's the reason why I'm calling this program a game-changing program from Google. We're seeing a very low cost per lead and very high conversion rates. So again, low cost per lead and high conversion rates. So we'll get into that. So what is the Google Local Services ads? Sometimes people call it Google Home Services. The program has been around for about 3 years, and it was called Google Home Services, and they recently changed it to Google Local Services. There was a lot of confusion between the Google Home device, which is kind of like the Alexa device, and this program. So they hit the brakes very, very quickly and changed the name to Google Local Services ads, which is challenging for the partners because it's been embedded in our mind that it's Google Home Services ads, but now it's Google Local Services ads. So obviously I need to go update a lot of my slides here. So brass tacks. Who and what companies and industries are eligible for this program, and what are the geographies that are live now, and what are the geographies that are launching next? We're going to get into how does this program work. We'll cover the pricing for the program and how to onboard your company and prepare for when it is coming to your area. Lastly, I'll answer any questions on Google Local Services, and if I don't know the answer, I will hunt down the answer and get you the answer to your questions. So how does it work? And for those that are on this call, I'm sure you're familiar with the product and the platform, and I'm sure you've seen it, otherwise you wouldn't be on this call. But here are just a couple of screenshots of what it looks like in the wild. And you can see that they've been doing a lot of testing if you look at these particular screenshots. So let's go back and take a look. So Google Home Services is a pay per lead program. So very different than pay per click. So I'll emphasize that again. It's a pay per lead. So you only pay when you get a lead. A lead is a phone call or an email. And you only pay for qualified leads. So think about that. It has to be a qualified lead, and we'll get into how Google and how you as a business determine what a qualified lead is. But that's a very different program than what you've ever seen from Google in the last 10, 15 years. So we are seeing a cost per lead anywhere between $17 and $31. For instance, Los Angeles, and I'm not going to get into every single geography, but Los Angeles is $23 per lead. Denver, $26 per lead. Philadelphia, which was the first East Coast company that they launched in this program, $19 per lead. So this is really a moving target. It's not something that we control. It's not something the advertiser, you the business, control. It's just something Google comes up with. And that is really a moving target. But we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move on. And also, the cost is fixed. At least that's where it is at the present time with this program. And it's the same fixed cost per lead for each company in the specific geography. And the fixed cost is based upon the geography. So let me make just that simple. The cost per lead is eligible and qualified, is eligible and it's qualified for each company within that particular geography. So in other words, all of the plumbing or the HVAC companies or the home service companies pay $23 per lead in Los Angeles. In Denver, 26, Philadelphia, 19. We'll get into more details on that in cost and the billing. So according to Google, this is still a beta program that is invitation only. Originally, it was launched, and this is going back 3 years now, it was launched as a replacement for Google AdWords, their pay-per-click program, although at this stage, it's not a replacement for Google AdWords. As you can see in the screenshot here, you see the Google Home Services ads, which are up here at the top, these 3 ads, and then you also see the pay-per-click ads. So you as an advertiser, it's almost like you're double dipping, which is kind of neat. And so a little bit of background. We're not going to get too much into the background because it's all about the present, but the program started back in 2015, and it was started for locksmiths and plumbing companies, which are the first 2 companies, and now the program is live for HVAC and a handful of other home services companies. So the why associated this, or I should say, what is the problem related to Google Home Services? Why is Google doing this? They're obviously not doing this to make more money. They already have enough money from their Google pay-per-click, and we all know how much it costs plumbing and HVAC companies on a cost per click basis. So why is Google launching this program, and what is the problem that they're looking to solve? So in my belief, this is just my opinion, my personal view, the reason why Google is launching the Google Local Service Program is for essentially these 3 reasons. Is one, to keep, was there a question? Can everyone hear me okay? If you cannot hear me, or if, I should say, if you can hear me, just type in the chat box, okay, or K. Because that'd be a bummer if we've gotten into this far and you can't hear me. I'll pause for a second here. All right, I assume we're okay. So again, back to my belief on why Google is launching this program, and I boil it down to 3 reasons. Is one, to keep up on the changing market, which you can see here from these icons that are on the screen. There are a lot of different solutions as a service company to launch in these different areas. Number 2 is to cut down on the scams, the online scams, and to clean up bad advertisers. And number 3 is to just create more of a trusted user experience with the people that are looking to hire these companies. So let's just take a look at number 1, the changing market. They're not the first company to get involved in this $450 billion home services area and business. if you look at some of these companies, you can compare them to Google Home Services and how Google Home Services is different. So as a plumbing and HVAC company, I'm pretty sure you're 100% positive and familiar with Home Advisor and Angie's List, and just recently Barry Diller's company, IAC Corporation, purchased Home Advisor and Angie's List, so they're launching a new pay-per-lead program. And then as you go through these various logos, you can see Craigslist and eLocal. But the two main ones, or the two ones that compare most to Google Local Services are probably Thumbtack and Services. And I'm not sure if you're involved with those companies, but they are on a pay-per-lead basis. Thumbtack is free advertising, so you only pay with credits when you do a quote for customers, and then they take a payment from that particular customer. What's different comparing Thumbtack Thumbtack and Services, and even Amazon Home Services, is that they want to own the customer. They want to take the payment, and then you give a percentage back. Whereas Google Home Services, you're paying on the front end for the lead, and Google gives you 100% ownership of that particular customer. So we'll cover this a little bit more as we get started. And then if you want to gather more information, there's a very good New York Times article, which is a hyperlink here at the bottom, which really gets into detail on why Google wants to be part of this space, specifically for their end users, more so than dipping their hand into another huge, as I said, $450 billion market. If you click this link right here, it's fake online locksmiths, maybe out to pick your pocket too. It really gets into great detail. So I'll share that link with everybody after the call here. So let's get into more information on this product. And as of last Thursday, here are some of the verticals that this product is live for. So I'll just let you take some of these in, but you can see locksmith, plumbing, HVAC, electricians, garage door. So roughly 10 verticals that they are running this beta test on. And when I say beta test, it's been around for 3 years. And then here's just a little sample of the cities and the geographies that these services are live. And you can see that from this particular map here, you can see that these are the live cities. I guess I need to update some of these pins. But this is slowly rolling out across the entire country. And according to my meetings with the Google Local Services teams, this eventually will be countrywide. So it'll be in every geography. On the left-hand side, you can see the live cities. And they're launching more. And I'll have an update probably next Thursday with at least 10 to 15 new additional cities. I've been told by the team that as they're recruiting, they don't want it to be too public right now with the cities that they're currently recruiting on. But if you scroll down, you can get an idea of these cities. And then as they launch a city, call it Los Angeles, or just call it Phoenix, or call it Denver. They slowly expand outside of that city. So they'll target 50 companies within a particular city. Let's just look at Denver. They'll target across these particular verticals, they'll target about 50 companies that they'll recruit. And a lot of them are looking to partners like myself and my company and other companies to help them onboard 50 companies just to launch that particular market. We'll get into how you can qualify your company. And then they slowly expand out into the rural areas based upon geography and based upon all of their intelligence that they have. So as of January, here you can see a more detailed list of the cities that are all live. And I might even be missing a few, and feel free to drop a note in the chat box if you have any intel on your city or your geography, or even sharing with the group how it has been in terms of onboarding your company into these cities. So more information is coming. So for the folks on this call, let's look at how Google Home Services ads work. And we're going to look at it from a consumer, from your customer standpoint, and then we'll look at it from you as the business owner. And it's pretty neat. So let's just use an example of how it works here. So if you search for a plumber in Los Angeles or Denver or Philadelphia or Seattle or San Francisco or Silicon Valley, you'll see the Google search results, and this is on mobile. Well, here's a couple of examples from it on mobile. Here you can see locked out in San Diego. You can see the ad showing up here, and then on the mobile you can see it here. But let's just look at the desktop because it's a little bit easier. So if you search for a plumber in, I'm just going to use the example here, a plumber in Covina, California. Here you're going to see the 3-pack, and Google has been testing this, and they're constantly testing this. I'm just going to back up a little bit and just show you a couple example search results of what they have been testing. So we've seen everything from the 3-pack listed here, which I just showed you. We've also seen this 3-pack where they pull in the picture of the business owner, and we've seen this more for house cleaners. And then we've seen them test multiple different scenarios. So I guess my point is that they're just constantly testing what seems to be working best. The next thing that you see below the 3-pack is another 3-pack, which is the Google pay-per-click. So you as an advertiser, if you think about it, well, here's one of our clients, Courtesy Plumbing. Here you can see you get a listing here in the Google Home Services. You also get a listing within the pay-per-click, and then you can also get a listing on below this is the Google Maps, and then you get the organic listing. So you could essentially, if you're doing very well in marketing, you can get 4 impressions based upon one of your target keywords. And we're seeing very similar results on mobile. So let me know if you have any questions on that. So back to how it works from a user standpoint, you type in, plumber Denver, plumber Seattle, or, you're looking for a plumbing company as your customer would. And then when you do click on a home services ad, you're brought to this particular screen. So bringing it back, if I was to type on this middle example here, Courtesy Plumbing, which is a Google guarantee, you get to see reviews, you get the phone number, so you can obviously pick up the phone or just call right directly off the screen. You get an example that looks like this, is find the right plumber for the job. And so Google will bring you to what's called a landing page that they've customized here, and you see the Google guarantee, and then you're brought to a page. And this is click to call here, or you can call, or you can also send a request. So those are essentially your 2 options. And as you scroll down the page, they're gonna entice you to either click to call, or pick up the phone and call, or send a request. And then on your Google guaranteed page, they show your reviews, your review rating, and they show you more about the company. So if somebody does click on send a request, then Google tries to further qualify that lead for you. And each individual lead is exclusive to you unless the searcher or the potential customer or the potential lead wants to select more companies. So here you can see if they click on send request, obviously if they give you a phone call, that's exclusive because there's no way to call numerous people from one dial. But here, when they further qualify themselves by typing in their zip code and what their problem is, and this is a long list so they can describe that, if they want, they can select multiple companies or they can select one. So by default, it is exclusive to you, but they do have the ability to select up to 3 other competitors as they put in this request. And what's ironic with locksmiths, plumbing companies, and HVAC companies, which I'm most intimate with, is that most, well, 85 to 90% of the leads are phone calls. And you'll probably notice that from your website. You know, I made the prediction about 7 or 8 years ago that, hey, people aren't going to call plumbing companies. They're just going to, you know, send a text message or fill in the contact form. And I was dead wrong on that, because still, as we track all the leads across all of our clients, it's still 85 to 90% of all leads come in the form of a phone call rather than a contact form or a live chat. So that's just interesting. And then Google was dead wrong on this. They thought that it was all going to be sending requests, but come to find out, it's all through the call tracking. So getting into describing your job, which is the next screen. So after the consumer fills in what the problem is, then they're brought to this particular screen, which again is Google further qualifying the lead for you. You can just read through some of the fields that need to be filled out here. A lot of them are auto-populated, so it makes it very, very quick for a consumer. And then the third step, which is kind of neat, is when do you need help? So flexible now, within 1 week, people type in their information and then send requests. And then obviously when that sent request comes to you, it comes in the form of an email, a text, there's a mobile app, you know, you get notified in whatever and every way that you want. So let's flip it over to you as a business owner. You know, how does this system work, which you're probably more interested in than it works as a consumer. So you are given as I said, a mobile app or an online desktop inbox, and the system that they have, you know, it's very different than Google AdWords, which is an extremely complex system. This inbox works, it's even more simple than Gmail. They just really haven't built out a lot of features, but we'll get to it. So here you can just see an example. This is the desktop, this is the mobile app, and they do have a booking system off of that. But as any leads come in, whether they be a phone call, because Google tracks all of those phone calls that come in for you, or whether it be an email, they just appear in your new inbox, and then you slowly move them through the process. Now, Google, you know, you can pick up that phone call and then use your Service Titan or whatever type of dispatching software that you have, or even, you know, just pick up the phone to your cell phone and take that call. You don't necessarily have to use the system, but the more that you use the system, the better off it is for you. So a lead comes in and, you know, you get notified, and they want you to, if it's an email lead, they want you to respond back to the system here, which is say, hey, like, give us a call, or what's the problem, or, you know, we can help you. They do have a booking system here, which you can just, from your mobile app or from the desktop, you just click on book, you select the time, and then that will, if the customer came in via an email, that will notify the customer that you've been booked, and then have you come out and help service them. I'm going to pause for a second. It looks like we have a question here. Let's see. So if the customer sees the phone number, yeah. So there was a question. If the consumer sees the phone number and then they call in using a different phone number, does Google track that? No, they definitely don't track that. Or if the consumer sees your ad and then visits your website and then calls off of your website, Google does not track that. So they only track that from the number that they're displaying on your Google local services page or in your ad. So hopefully, you know, they do click on your website or go over to your Yelp profile and call you from there. Which that means that they've bypassed the Google local services, although they've just discovered you there. And by the way, that's how a lot of consumers buy home services. So it's a good thing, which just leads into the value of being part of this particular program. Thanks for the question. So as soon as somebody does book, you know, that's when you are paying. So booking, meaning that they give you a call or they fill in a contact form. platform, that's at the point which you are paying for the lead. And as mentioned before, you know, it's a pay per lead basis, but if by chance that person is just kicking the tires, or they are trying to sell you something, or if they're calling you to find out more about how, you know, if they're an advertiser trying to find out more about how Google Local Services works, which we find a lot of those, in the interface, you have the ability to decline that lead. So if you're not interested in the lead, or if you're too busy, you can say, you can dispute the lead. And when you do dispute the lead from this particular screen right here, you don't have to pay for it. Also, another question that I'm constantly asked is, you know, can we schedule our ads? You know, our busy days are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so we don't want to show the ads there, or we want to capitalize on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. You do have the ability to turn the ads on and turn the ads off. Right now, you can't schedule it. Like I mentioned, it's a very basic interface, and I'll give you an example of how simple the interface is. And as you onboard your company, you're going to like the interface because it's not like AdWords. It's simply you set a monthly budget, as you can see from my screen here. It just has the leads, which is your inbox. It has your reviews. So after you do a project or you know, you do a service call within the interface, you can Google will also realize that, you know, you've closed that deal if you book through them or even not, but that customer, then you can click on the review button and ask them for a review, and your reviews within Google Home Services syncs up and communicates directly, not perfectly, but directly to your Google local review listings on your Google search results for your business. So that's huge. So compare that to Yelp, which Yelp and Google don't necessarily get along. We can get into that another day. But here you can see an example of what your profile looks like and how you can update your profile very, very easily. Within this interface, you can set an ad budget. We can get into budgets, but right now, on a pay-per-lead basis, you can do a little bit of math, but we're seeing around $1,000 a month. Well, anywhere between $500 a month on a low end to capture leads, and then honestly, with my clients, we haven't been able to capitalize on spending more than $1,500 a month. So we're kind of seeing that as the sweet spot. Obviously, we'd want to be spending, you know, $7,000 and $10,000 a month, but we're just not able to do that right now, which is a little bit more complicated, and it's quite a bit different than Google pay-per-click. I'm sure we've all seen that pay-per-click, you can spend as much as you want and Google will take your money. But I think as they push this program, it'll be easier to spend more money on the platform. And the reason why I'm emphasizing wanting to spend more money is because the conversion rate on these particular leads is, we're seeing about a 70 to 80% conversion rate to an appointment. And then you know what happens when you and your company go on an appointment to a business or a customer. That percentage rate, I'll leave that up to you, but that percentage rate should be very, very high when you're in front of a customer and they have a specific problem. So just to reiterate, when a lead comes in through Google Local Services ads from that top page of Google, about 70 to 80% of the time, we're getting in front of the customer. So if you compare that to pay-per-click, pay-per-click, when you pay for a click to your website within the plumbing and HVAC business, you're going to see about a 30% conversion rate to a phone call. And then of those phone calls that you receive via pay-per-click or even via Yelp or via any other organic source, of those phone calls, only about 50% of the time will they be an actual customer. The other 50% is they're trying to sell you something. And then of all the phone calls that you receive, and this is just the industry average, of all the phone calls that you receive, probably only about 25% of them turn into appointments where you get in front of the customers. So that means 75%, 50% are probably people trying to sell you stuff or spam-related calls. Another 25% are tire kickers or not your ideal customer. Maybe they're outside of your service area. And then that last 25% are, legitimate leads. So compare that 75% waste that your CSRs or your people answering the phone are dealing with, compare that to Google local services ads, whereas 75 to 80% are turning into appointments, in-person meetings, sales calls, or service calls, whatever you might call them. So how does Google charge for this service? So right now there's no formalized billing system associated with this, and you're used to just Google, reaching into your credit card and taking out this information. So as an advertiser, you set a weekly budget. As I mentioned, 1,000 to 2,000 is on average. We're actually seeing that on a monthly basis, and it varies greatly across all these different geographies, and it varies greatly across, if you get in early on this program, you can really do well. But as the program matures and as more advertisers get on the program, it gets more and more competitive. So being early is a huge beneficial factor. Again, it's pay per lead. You probably heard me say that 1 million times on this call, but it's roughly $23 per lead. And given the geography, they were between $19 and $30 per lead here. And then the way that they bill you, it's a monthly itemized invoice that just comes via email, and it kind of looks like this. Your May bill for home services, and you just click on pay your balance, and you type in your credit card information here, and that's how you currently pay for it. So it's kind of cool. You don't have to pay up front, you pay on the back end. And as long as you're using the system, you're only paying per lead. So you might be asking yourself, or let me pause for a second, see if there are any questions here. I can obviously unmute. Here's a good question. Why can't you spend more? So a couple questions. I'll address one question. The reason why we can't spend more, and it varies upon geography. So in Philadelphia, which was launched probably July, when we were first on the platform, we were able to spend our budget, and we had a relatively small budget, and we were maximizing our budget for the number of leads at $19 per lead. And in San Francisco, which is another geography that I'm very familiar with, there's just too many advertisers on the program, and we just can't get our ads to show enough. We're willing to spend more. And then that's kind of the same scenario here in Los Angeles, which has been live for about a year. When the program first started and we were on the program, we had a budget of $1,000 a week, which is, roughly $4,000 a month. So we never really hit that goal because of the amount of advertisers that are on the program, and now it's been slowly weaning off. So the reason why we can't spend more, it's not due to a volume, it's due to Google trying to figure out the rotation and the geography and who's best optimized on the program. So sorry about the long-winded answer, but love to spend more, and I think that will improve over time. And the way that the program works and the way that you want to work within the program, it's very similar to Yelp or Angie's List or Airbnb. You want to have reviews on the program. You want to be super responsive. You want to be quick to deliver and then actually use the program. So if you have any questions on that, feel free to give me a phone call and we can discuss more about that. But it varies. So I'm just thinking about the 4 different geographies that I'm in, and it just varies greatly around, finding that ideal budget and then trying to maximize the system to the best of our abilities. So how do you get started? If it's in your particular geography, we can talk about onboarding, and then if it is slowly moving to your geography, we can talk about that as well. We can also talk about if you're just outside of the city or the high density area and how you can still partake in the program. So for you, not working with a partner, you can simply click on this link here, which allows you to fill in a contact form. And here are just some of the basics that Google is looking for when they look to qualify you for this program, or if they call you and recruit you into the program. They're just looking at your online credibility, basic information, and is that relevant across the internet. That gets into your name, address, and phone number. Your employees will have to, once you get into the program, your employees will have to fill in a background check. They do look for your general liability insurance coverage and your contractor license. Pretty basic information. Now, when you do get contacted by Google, or when you work with a partner like myself, or when you fill in this contact form, the next step in the process, so basically after you've been pre-approved, you get an email in a system like this, and this is changing. Now they have like some videos that go along with this. But you receive a welcome email. And the key thing about this that I can't stress enough is just to get through this process really quickly, even if it is a city or a suburb that they're recruiting for. They're really looking for companies that respond to this pretty quickly. And it's really basic. So you have to do a background check, which is really easy. They do a third-party service with Pennington, something like that. But you don't, and what I suggest is you don't do your entire company. Just do like the owner, and then maybe the CSRs or the people who answer the phone, and then maybe one or two technicians, because I've seen that really be a hiccup if you have 30 employees and you're trying to get a background check on all of them. I would suggest just doing 2 or 3 if you can. That's pretty basic. And then you just need to provide them with your certificate of insurance. You need to to download the app on your phone. Even if you don't want to use the app, you still need to download it, and then just go through this basic training, which is just a Google Doc, and then they have you just take a little bit of a test, and then you fill in the profile. So the quicker you can move through that process with Google, makes it a lot easier for you to get onboarded into the program. And so, like I said, if you're preparing for it to move to your area, here are some things that you want to make sure you have covered. You can reach out to your current customers and ask them for reviews, and make sure that all of your names and your address and your phone number are updated. Make sure that your social media profiles are all linking to your website. So just basic internet marketing. Make sure that your internet presence is pretty strong. And then obviously, if you have any questions, I provide my contact information here with my name, my address, my phone number, email, website, all that sort of stuff. So I know I said 35 minutes. I ran a little bit over, but I do want to be available for any questions or any comments that people have. I'll pause a little bit here to read some of these questions.